Hello and welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Time in Some Guy's Parents' House. This is Mike, your presenter, and with me are two fine gentlemen and, dare I say it, friends, Rob and Jules. How are you both today?
Speak first, Rob.
Yeah, okay.
Because you're
it's
Rob.
me. Oh, right.
Your name is said first. So
I'm fine. I'm good.
And today we're going to be talking about a new film by first-time director Drew Pearce, Hotel Artemis. This is a film which is, in case you somehow missed this movie, it is a film with Jodie Foster which is set in a near-future Los Angeles where there are widespread riots due to a shortage of water, in which Jodie Foster plays the role of a nurse who runs a somewhat secretive, shady patch-up shop hospital for criminals who are injured. They come to her, and if they are members of the club, they can get in and they can receive treatment safe from the police and the rest of the outside world. So, I'm going to start with Jules.
Where?
Jules.
Ah!
Usual format. Tell me something you
Okay.
liked and then something you didn't like about Hotel Artemis in whichever of those orders you'd like.
Okay, well no, this is easy because this is a film that, if I had to give it a title, it would be something like Hotel Artemis. But it isn't. I didn't think it was a bad film, but I didn't think it was a great film. And I'd say one of the definite positives, like one thing I did really like about this film, so I'll begin on a note, before I go ranting, I'll go into a positive, is I thought the story world it created was really, really interesting. It was a very interesting vision of the future. It took a really interesting take on sort of the zeitgeist by, because it's set with as we said about with these LA water riots, taking the LA riots from the 90s and sort of imposing it on a future context where it is sort of much more commercial future where the water is owned by corporations and the poor are rioting over it, and it's something that I thought was an interesting choice for a story world.
Yeah.
And the actual vision of the hospital is this sort of grimy, sort of noir-y, sort of cyberpunk, but it isn't like it doesn't look like it's trying to just do a version of Blade Runner like a lot of these do, or Ghost in the Shell.
Like that, yes.
It's got a very original look and design to the world, and it's an interesting concept. But the flaw, I mean, it's pretty simple. I don't think it was executed very well. I think it was kind of dull, and it had a lot of promise in the ideas, but it just failed to do them in a way that I thought made an entertaining film.
Can I pin you
Yes,
down and ask you
of
for
course.
a specific thing, even if it is about the execution that you didn't think worked? Why don't you think this film worked?
Two major things come to mind. One is the protagonists, one, I'm not entirely sure who's even meant to be the protagonist, whether it's meant to be Jodie Foster, or, is it Sterling K. Brown?
That's the name of the actor, yes. He was playing Taikiki?
Something like that.
Waikiki?
I got a little confused by the names in this
Yes, I
film.
think so. Yeah, because all of the criminals who come in for treatment are named after the suite that they're staying in Hotel Artemis. His brother, it's Sterling K. Brown's brother, is the one who's actually really injured. So
Yes.
he's in Suite Honolulu, so he's Honolulu, and because Sterling K. Brown, his brother, is with him, he gets another sort of Hawaiian name, which I think was Waikiki or Taikiki,
Right.
with him, whereas some of our other characters are in Acapulco or in Nice. And so that's how they're known through this film.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things you could miss.
Yeah, there was a lot of things I probably missed. I think it's a very dense. As I said, this is the thing. The story one, the details were really well executed, very well realised. But I'll go back to the protagonist then.
Yeah.
It starts with Sterling K. Brown's. They do a heist. Him and his brother, and they performed a heist. It goes poorly. They need to get patched up.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good setup. It's a good setup.
Really clean fight.
I was straight in at the first. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is interesting. This is going to interesting places. And then it jumps to where they need to go to get patched up. You've got Hotel Artemis, and it starts. It's Jodie Foster, and she's beginning her regular day as the nurse that patches up criminals.
Another Wednesday.
Yes,
She keeps
another
saying,
Wednesday. And I think that's a really interesting concept. This idea of a doctor, someone, a medical professional, they've got a Hippocratic oath, they've got to do what's right by the patient, but they're treating criminals.
Yes.
It's like there could be a really interesting conflict there. But it feels like it has a bit of a fractured protagonist, because I'm never sure if I'm meant to be following her character through things, if she is the one that's guiding events, whether it's her character that arcs, or whether it's his character. And the movie's structured in this very messy sort of... It's more like it's full of subplots. And it's kind of leads into my other problem, which is with the pacing, because what it did all these subplots is it meant the first sort of first two acts were just felt like nothing but setup for a third act that I don't think paid it off very well at all.
It's interesting to say that
Very
because there's an
rushed.
interview I read with the director, Pierce, and he said that the actual film has more of a two-act structure. I was wondering,
That's interesting.
does that ever work? Is there ever a situation where a two-act structure can work?
Well, that doesn't even really have plays. A two-act structure is what you would use. Is what you would use in a short play. But two acts plays, the sort of thing David Mamet would do frequently. They tend to be about 45 minutes long because you can't really do that over. I mean, even though this film is quite short. It's about 90 minutes. I was very surprised when it ended. I was when it got to the point. When it got to what felt to me like naturally as if it would be the midpoint of a story, it was actually the end of Act 2, and they were just going into a final sort of, last action scene to sort of resolve the plot. But I was thinking, like, already? Where is this?
He also compared it to a bit of an Agatha Christie, but I don't see any of the mystery element there.
I felt that this did have exactly that kind of structure, that the film was really going for potboiler, chess piece, thriller, where you have only the pieces that you need. You've got this really quite small cast who are in this contained space. All of them have their motivations, which are sometimes transparent to the audience from the beginning and sometimes revealed to us as they go. And then the ideal scenario for this film is that organically everything leads up to a breaking point, and then this carefully structured house of cards, this place which is very fragile anyway, it needs these rules in place to just allow it to exist. Everything's going to come tumbling down at once, and we're going to have this explosive climax between all of these different characters who have been brought into this situation together. And I thought that largely it set itself up quite well. I really liked the first an hour 15 of this film. I just thought it didn't really pay off in the end. I mean, I very rarely say this, but I thought this film could have been a bit longer.
Yeah.
I thought it needed 15 to 20 minutes to establish some of the plot lines so that they had a bit more importance to us. I don't know, what did you think, Rob? We haven't heard from you yet.
It is an impressively realised place to visit. Rather than a story worth investing in. I think by the end of it you find that the character of the hotel is more of an interesting personality than those within it. Like the rules, for example.
Yes.
The rules of the hotel, we see them in like a second. We see them in the trailer for almost the same amount of time as we do in the movie. In theory, most of those rules sort of systematically contravened throughout the film.
Yes.
Charlie Day's character, he has a lot of good depth there. He's an insecure rich guy. We kind of love to hate him. At one point he's almost satirising these characters that are just cool for cool's sake, and they almost have this unearned quality where they're famous murderers or assassins or so on, and he's saying, why are you superior to me?
The reason he's there, interestingly, isn't for a criminal reason. He has some mistress of his that he wants to keep hidden has basically clawed his eye, but he would be able to walk into a normal hospital. He can at least present the image of being a normal professional man, but he's choosing to go to Hotel Artemis because he doesn't want it to get out that he's had this affair with this woman.
There's a theme, I think, which basically I think the director has alluded to, which is basically the characters are in cages of their own creation, essentially.
Yes, I definitely did get the sense of people choosing to encase themselves basically in this place, to not be
and
in
you
the
do
outside
feel
world.
kind of a relief once they're back inside the hotel, even though there's a lot of danger going on there.
Well, there's some level of control within the hotel, and it's the chaos on the outside and the controls on the inside. But of course, the chaos is making its way in. It's the two worlds are colliding, and her character isn't.
You mentioned the budget as well,
Yes.
which, as we know, about $15 million.
$15 million.
Shot in about 32 days. There are some wonderful establishing shots in it, and I sort of felt that a lot of the scenes were taking place predominantly at the end of a long lens and quite close up into characters' grills sometimes. I feel like, is that a directorial choice sort of thing?
Bear Grylls
And then
was
I
in the
found
film.
and then I found out that basically they had an ACRAT camera set up to have the establishing wide shot, and then they had Chung Hoon Chung, who's a Korean DOP.
He's from Old Boy, isn't he?
That's right, he's done quite a few of these.
Old Boy.
He was doing the
very
B
cool,
camera,
yeah.
so that's possibly why. And Drew was kind of asking Chung to really push it, supposedly. But there weren't...
To push these shots really close to people's faces.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what he means by push it, but I realised it was actually more a case of just a practical issue, because although it is definitely a set, the hotel's a set, it was constructed like a building, so there aren't many walls that they can take away. And
Right.
So these scenes are quite cramped, and that's why quite a lot of the establishing shots are overhead shots.
Right.
Basically, because there just isn't enough room. We don't get any of those kind of standout, memorable sequences like in Old Boy, where you've got this almost two-dimensional tracking fight scene, for example.
Right.
Everything is quite close up. And I was wondering, why is that? But I think it's just because they just haven't got much room.
The way the set was constructed.
And because
Makes
of the
a lot of
budget, as well,
sense,
it is
yes.
impressive. It's very impressive.
I would not
15,
think that was
yeah.
made on 15 million. It's especially considering it's got a really excellent cast. I would think that alone, the members of the cast would command more than 15 million combined. So it's surprising that to have an entire thing shot like that for 15 million. And also brought Jodie Foster, I think, out of her first film for about 5 years or something.
I was thinking it had been ages since I'd seen her. Underused actors.
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum in this film.
Yes.
I had actually completely forgotten that he was in it. He plays the Wolf King.
The Wolf King.
Who,
The crime boss
the
of
crime
LA.
boss of LA. Yeah, like, so he's the guy who's running the whole thing. And when he emerges, it's Jeff Goldblum playing the Wolf King. And I thought, this is going to be great. And then he has 2 scenes and we took criminally underused.
I had the complete opposite feeling going in because the one thing I knew about this film was that Jeff Goldblum was in it. And you talk about the 2-act play structure.
Yes.
So probably should rename this Waiting for Goldblum.
Nice. Sorry, niece.
Yes, and he should be a very important part of this film.
But this
and
is-
he just didn't have the impact that
Well, I'd argue this falls-
that it promises.
This falls into another problem with the film. It relates to the sort of the subplot thing. Is a lot of the storylines don't seem to affect one another, and even though, okay, because the setup for the film is this heist goes wrong, but they've stolen like those super expensive diamonds that they
Yes.
don't realise belong to Jeff Goldblum's
That's right.
evil boss guy.
So Sterling K. Brown's character,
and it was-
who is
yes.
one of the likeable protagonists of
Yes.
the film that we're meant to be rooting for, he has
He
essentially
stole-
inadvertently put himself in the crosshairs of the Wolf King
Well,
because
that
his
we-
brother has stolen something very valuable from him.
Which is the problem I have is like it sounds great on paper, the idea of okay, we've got good stakes. He's got the thing that Jeff Goldblum's going to want, and if he finds out he's got it, he's going to kill him, and he does horrible things. I think he drowns people who steal from him. It's not nice. But
We always forget
Jeff
about the
Goldblum-
MacGuffin,
But
don't
Jeff
we?
Goldblum, his character, this whole thing with where he arrives at Hotel Artemis needing to be patched up, has absolutely nothing to do with these diamonds.
Yeah.
And
No.
I mean, the story, it's one of these stories where if you took out Sterling K. Brown's character and the stealing of diamonds from the entire plot, the story would have worked out exactly the same.
One of the biggest problems I thought with the story of this film actually was the motivation for Jeff Goldblum to be there. I actually found
Paycheck?
Well, no. Jeff
That's
Goldblum's
Jurassic
character,
World.
the Wolf King. I mean, I just didn't. So this was a slightly world-breaking moment for me, where I thought, why would the Wolf King need to go to Hotel Artemis to get patched up? I mean, at one point he says he runs the police. Is Hotel Artemis actually the best hospital in the city? I assumed it was just some shady back secret place, which was good for a criminal who'd been shot. But that if you were actually a rich, a successful and legitimate businessman, you wouldn't go to Hotel Artemis.
This feels like a story that needed a few more extra redrafts.
Yes. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it would have been much more interesting if Jeff Goldblum's character had gone to Hotel Artemis because he was trying to find somebody else
Like,
who
he
was
was
there.
trying to get the diamonds.
Or he was trying to get the diamonds back.
Also, the police cop character.
Yes.
She seems to be very super. She much like Charlie Day's character. These are characters that feel very superfluous to the whole plot.
They're
Yeah.
almost just there to break the rules.
Yeah.
And the rules are a nice conceit, but again, it would have been interesting if they'd used them somehow.
Yeah, because this is the thing. She's constantly talking about Jodie Foster about how
Like
you
every
don't
time
break
she
the
breaks a
rules. But
rule,
then she's-
it's kind of a
and it's interesting the idea that
breaking a
she's
pledge of her
conflicted.
own, and because she seems to break
She's
them all the time.
but it's
Well, not all the
interesting that she
time,
would choose
but
to break them. It's a good conflict, but it doesn't really mean anything.
The whole place is I mean, the whole place is only fragilely held together by these rules. I mean, it's basically all of these very
10 rules.
dangerous people who are together. 10 rules.
do you know why there
were
are
there
10
10?
rules?
10 Commandments?
No, so it's Artemis is the Greek goddess, of course, Zeus's daughter. She had 10 wishes for Zeus to grant her, essentially. Oh, I've written them down, but
And
they don't actually
it's-
ascribe to the
it's one of the
rules,
wishes, no
really.
guns.
They're things like to have a knee-length tunic so that she could hunt, and
I think Dave Bautista wore one of those.
to rule all the mountains, and to have the ability to help women in the pains of childbirth.
Wow.
One of the rules, the actual rules of the membership, is no photography or video allowed. And
Artemis
Sophia
thing.
Botella's character has
Oh, she's like-
cameras in her
yeah.
eyes,
She
and
has implants, yeah, so that she can...
which is very, very Gibson-esque, very Neuromancer, I felt.
right.
That's true, yeah.
But again, it's another sort of loose end where you think, oh, Almost at the beginning, I was thinking there are a bunch of criminals in an enclosed space. Suicide Squad. This is how you do it. This could be really good.
Criminal Die Hard.
We almost want to see more of those characters.
I have a question for you both. Do you think this film is a piece of science fiction?
Yes, but it's very idea based, and it is set in.
It looks to the future with the 3D printed organs. That's kind of
science fiction.
Science fiction.
Science fiction is taking a look into the future, using current ideas, and saying where things could go. That's really the sort of.
It's got to be some kind of prediction. Quite often, it's about a prediction about
about society and where society will go.
About us individually and collectively, rather than just being about technology. I think.
Well, there are quite a few nods to Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt in it, weirdly, probably unintentional. Well, him being Captain Obvious for one.
But I know. But then is this a question of is this just Dave Bautista going for a part that he knows he's going to be able to play well?
Well, I'm probably just saying patterns, but
the
other one was the fact that she has she's quite a bit retro, Mrs. Thomas, isn't she?
Oh, well, everything in the music thing.
Vinyl, she has the cassette
tape that she did,
which she plays. Yeah. The music was great in it. And the guy who does the music, he did the music for quite a lot of people like
for Solaris.
And,
it's Cliff Martinez. Yes. I love Cliff Martinez.
And recently Marty Campbell, good old Marty Campbell, on The Foreigner. He did the music on The Foreigner.
The Foreigner.
Yeah.
That was great.
I didn't realise until the credits came up at the end that it was Cliff Martinez. But
right.
The whole time I was listening to it thinking, this is familiar and I love it.
Yeah.
And yes, it's just like the Solaris remake is a Cliff Martinez soundtrack, which I absolutely adore.
The soundtrack worked exceptionally well for the tone the film was going for. That sort of, that thriller dread. I felt it made the scenes more exciting to the point where I didn't really care what was happening in the scenes, but I wasn't bored.
Following on from the fact that the director said that, brings Agatha Christie into this, I didn't really think this was a science fiction film at all. I thought this was essentially a thriller, and fair enough, it had the veneer of, it was set in a near future world, but I didn't really think this was, the point of this film for me wasn't to say this is what I think the future's going to look like. This was a mystery, it was a thriller, it was an Agatha Christie, and you had with all of those trappings, the small enclosed space, characters put together, and the motivations that we don't really know, and the rules, the thing that allows everything to fall apart. When the rules are broken, everything's going to go to hell.
I guess you could be right, because some of the marketing for this film has a kind of hard-boiled or noirish bent to it, and some of it are basically remixed Raymond Chandler novels.
It's an interesting mix of genres.
Yes.
This is the big thing with this film. I think it could have been so much better than it actually is.
It's a step in the right direction in that it's a low-budget, unique world. He's gone on a limb to make this, I suppose, and it's unfortunate that it hasn't quite taken. Maybe a lot of that is just finding the damn film, because we had a problem.
Yeah, I did wonder. I mean, I was watching it in London, where it wasn't so difficult to find screenings. But I did think when I walked into my screening and saw there were 3 other people there, I was thinking, oh wow, I wonder if the guys are actually going to find a screening of this film to see.
Well, we were similarly almost the only people there.
I mean,
there was nobody there.
The film has under 7,000 ratings on IMDb at the moment.
A question I wonder is how much of this reception of the lack of people that have come to see it is directly related to the review aggregate websites giving this I think this Rotten Tomatoes score is something, but it's about 51, 52%.
This type of film gets hurt by those aggregator websites. I mean, the average Marvel movie gets a score of about 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's very safe, delivers the moments that you're expecting, and that's enough for thumbs up from basically every reviewer. And then you have a film like this, which is definitely trying to do something slightly original, slightly different, and because it aims a little higher, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down, and as a result, this film is going to be seen as a commercial failure, and people are not going to think, well, let's have another crack at doing this original film.
I want to champion it basically on principle.
Yes, but I imagine that most movie critics would be in the same camp as us individually. They'd be thinking, I'm glad that films like this are being made, I'm glad that people are trying.
First-time director. He did a music video for Father John Misty.
He was thanked in the credits.
Yes, previously of the Fleet Foxes, so that's Josh Tillman. And it's a kind of interesting music video, some sort of split-screen use and so on. But,
I could see him doing good music videos,
I think he said something about wanting to make a Carpenter film with a kind of Korean-style direction to it.
I feel like this guy, maybe his next film might blow us away.
Usual way to wrap up then, gentlemen. Jules, would you recommend this film to our listeners?
It depends. If you enjoy sci-fi, then I'd say yes. I'd probably call it a maybe not best to watch in the cinema, but definitely watch on Netflix.
I'd
Rob,
say it's a
would you-
worthwhile experience. Yeah, certainly a bit of fun, and I'd probably give it 3.5 on TripAdvisor.
Nice. So well done, Drew Pearce. No shots fired across your bowels today. We love your work. Write to us, please. And on that, that's the end of this episode of Once Upon a Time in Some Guy's Parents' House. We'll be back, preferentially not in such swelteringly hot weather, in this guy's parents' house again soon. Thanks very much for listening.
You know how it's episode 4? Could this be the first one now?
Ooh, let's say that in the chronology. That makes Tomb Raider episode 1. Is that appropriate?
I'm confused. What do you mean?
Phantom Menace.
Oh, the TripAdvisor
Was it a
thing.
Star Wars joke?
No, because it was hotel, isn't it? Hotel Artemis.
What?
But what does that have to do with it being the 4th one?
Oh no, I meant
Was
my
that a Star Wars
3.5 TripAdvisor joke.
Oh no, it fell completely flat for me. Are we still recording?